So,
I was a chunky student teacher when I was going to be a teacher, and I walked into this grade 3 classroom, and they're like, and I said, I'm going to be teaching you guys gymnastics. This one little kid in the front row, I'll never forget it. Like, this is 20 years ago. You're going to teach us gymnastics? And then he just had a laughing fit.
Welcome to Bad Parents, a podcast about 3 bad parents who are trying to raise good kids. She's Shauna.
Hello.
He's Ryan.
What's up?
And I'm Johnny. A Tell It Like It Is podcast for parents to laugh, cry, and to make you feel better about your parenting.
Another episode of Bad Parents. And guess what? We're going to the mailbag. Multiple questions. And if you have any more that you would like us to answer, just go to badparents@curiouscast.ca. We got 3 of them. Some amazing discussions. Here we go.
Welcome to the Bad Parents podcast. It's times like these, to quote the Foo Fighters, where I had some sort of like fancy jingle like, mail, we got mail, we read your letters, and we also like to get mail.
I like it.
Because this is...
I didn't like that.
Can you do it again?
Mail, we got mail.
Now it's beatboxing.
Is that what that is?
It's more like, it's got chapped lips maybe.
Mail, we got mail, we like to get letters and also read your mail. Hope it doesn't get lost.
What's the email address?
Postal service. It is badparents@curiouscast.ca. If you wouldn't mind sending us any of your questions. And we got a whole bunch. We're going to try and tackle them today.
Can I reach into the mailbag today?
Yeah,
you sure
why
can.
don't you do
Get
it?
your
go.
grubby hand into that bag of mail.
In fact, I'm going to call it a mail sack, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I knew you would.
Now, we've got a whole bunch lined up for right now. And just want to say hi to Rakaya. And I'll say this because, Rakaya, you sent a really nice email. And we're going to get to your question. You actually gave us a whole bunch of different topics that we can cover. But you're going through some stuff right now. You mentioned you're going through cancer treatments and stuff like that. And knock on wood, it looks like you're all clear after your 4th appointment. But you said you enjoyed listening to us while you're going through these treatments, and we are a nice distraction. So we're thinking of you. Just wanted to say that off
Absolutely.
the top. And now we're going to get to Lena. And Lena has a great question here. She says, we know children have beautiful innocence and a truly honest approach. What would you say is the most crushing thing one of your children have ever said to you? They're so truthful without tact. That is so true.
They don't, they love us, I think, but the love does not translate into when they're trying to be, if you ask their opinion about anything, it could be what you're wearing. I think I told you guys one time I dyed my hair dark, and I'm usually blondish, and I thought I'm going to go chestnut brown for the winter season. Went to pick up my son from school. He might have been in grade 5 at the time. This is my older kid. And he sees me down the hallway and he cups his mouth with his hand like to tell me a secret, but it's loud because he's down the hall. Your hair looks horrible. Ouch. Never got over it.
Right.
Never dyed my hair brown again. But I think, he probably was right. Because, when you first get it done, you kind of look like you're walking around with a dark wig. Anyways, yeah. To this day, he is the truth teller. If I want to ask him if something looks nice,
right?
He's told me before my dresses are too small.
Mommy, your dresses are too small.
Why is it so small?
Mommy, all the other dads are looking at you. Yeah, no, they really do. And it's you appreciate the honesty. But again, as Lena said, they don't have any tact whatsoever. I would say for me, and sometimes it's because the truth hurts. And it's one thing when they kind of make fun of my being bald or short or... They got made fun of my small hands.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because now my kids are at the point now where they're starting to pass me, right?
And they love passing you.
And listen,
boys.
All truth aside, I want my kids to pass me in height. I'm only 5'7", and so my oldest is now taller than me, and I'm hoping they're all taller than me because I hated it. My nickname growing up was Baby Legs. It wasn't far from the truth. It's when they say something to me like, "Dad, you always say maybe later."
Oh,
that hurts.
They're calling you on it.
Yeah, because it's sometimes as a parent, you want to do everything, but you can't, or sometimes you just want to break, or they don't understand that that's not open at this time, or you know what I mean. And it's like, hey, can we do this? And I'll be like, maybe later. You always say maybe later, or they'll say it before they say it to me. Like, is this going to be a maybe later? And it just hurts because
they're on to you.
Yeah.
And it hurts because you know that you've been feeding them a line all those years and now you can't anymore.
Yep. Or it's like, let me guess, ask mom. You know what I mean? And it sucks because I've obviously done it enough.
I know.
Where it's a thing. I don't think I just did it once.
No,
you know
definitely not.
How about at your age? They say anything to you?
They're a bit younger. So they just kind of point out fact more than, truth, where it's like, hey, daddy, do you have a baby in your belly?
Oh.
Because I for those of you who may not know, Rye just said that he was 5'7". I'm 5'7", 240. So like, there's something there. So I understand. I'm working on it. I understand where
Are
they're.
you going to go to the gym? Maybe later.
Maybe later. Yeah. So I understand where they're coming from, and it's such an innocent question.
I know.
From a 4-year-old,
Yeah.
where it's like, I get it, but obviously, it's out enough where you make that sort of connection. It's not like it's so flat that there's no way.
I know.
So
Right.
it hurts.
That's why
because
it hurts,
it's the truth, right?
Because it's the truth.
Yeah. So, things like that, and obviously they're noticing, and I've always said, because I had kids a little bit later in life, your kids are a lot older than mine.
Does that come up with them? Like, do
No.
they say, why you have...
No, gray hair.
But in like a few years, I'm like, you're the only daddy with liver spots.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for that.
If you're still with us.
So the thing is,
my God.
it's okay. So the thing is, I never wanted to be the old, like, there's nothing to do about being the old dad. Like, I
Yeah.
just can't. You can't turn back time. But I can do something about my weight, and I'm trying to. So I don't want to be the old fat dad.
Right.
Because both my kids are still in the early blossoming stages of doing anything sort of active. So like, I want to go to the rink or kick the ball around
Yeah.
or do those sort of things. So I would like to at least try to tackle one, the weight, which hopefully slows down the other one, which is the age. So
I was a chunky student teacher when I was going to be a teacher, and I walked into this grade 3 classroom, and they're like, and I said, I'm going to be teaching you guys gymnastics. This one little kid in the front row, I'll never forget it. Like, this is 20 years ago. You're going to teach us gymnastics? And then he just had a laughing fit. Like a little Ryan. I can picture him as a kid like that.
I guess that's kind of like how maybe people were sort of different, because Ryan and I went to a school. We went to the same high school together.
Yeah.
And did you go to the feeder school, Edenwood? Did you go to Edenwood?
I went to you. Yeah.
We had a gym teacher who was like a big guy, like a really like a larger gentleman, to the point where now looking back, you're just kind of like, well, he's just what it. But at the time, you're like, I know. But nobody vocalized it.
Right.
But the elephant in the room was
him.
Like how are you making me do 100 push-ups when I'm not 100% sure you could do one, which is like, fine. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But the difference maybe between generations, like, we would never have said that.
That's a good point.
Ever have brought that up.
That's a
where,
great point.
You
Kids,
walk in and they're like, 15, 20 years later, and they're saying it.
Yeah.
I find that interesting.
I remember I was taking my little guy skating, and I was tying up his shoelaces. So, you can imagine the position I was in, and he took my toque off, and his little buddy was around like next to him, and he goes, "Look, my dad's bald." And then the other kid cracked up. This dad's tying up his laces. He looks like Kenny G with his hair.
Oh,
and they just thought it was
no.
so funny that I'm bald.
Oh,
And I'll tell you, there's something I'll never forget. When I was a kid, like maybe like 12 or something, I was on a plane with my parents, and we weren't sitting together. And I went up to go see my dad, and remember Benny Hill? Remember
Yes,
Jackie? They used to tap Jackie on the top of the head. I did that to my dad. He looked at me and he said, "Never again."
See, that's the difference.
And I still remember to this day, because it was all about at home, fine. We could all make fun of each other and joke, and everyone's got a sense of humor in my house growing up. But in public, that doesn't fly. And now as an adult, I totally get it, because I'm embarrassing, or it's just stupid.
Yeah, no,
Right?
exactly. But maybe what Johnny was saying, maybe kids have changed because we aren't as strict. Like, maybe
Right.
if you had done that to your dad, he would have tied your skates together. Go have fun, get out on the ice, kid.
Right.
But we don't.
No, I just kind of laughed it off, and I played along. Where 1984 dad would probably looked at your kid and like, "That's your last warning.
Exactly.
You're not humiliating me in public."
So in turn, then, if those were sort of like the things that kind of like made us feel bad, the innocence of me being pregnant because of my belly, when my daughter says to me, like, "You're the best dad ever," like, I truly believe it, because she has no sort of like whatever. So you get the good with the bad. What's something amazing your kid has said to you?
I can tell you mine right off the top, because it just happened to me.
Sure.
In fact, it's along the same lines as my middle son, who's 12. We were at a hockey rink, and I was talking to a bunch of people. I just know a lot of people, I guess. I don't know. Sometimes people come over and they say hi, because we do a morning show in Toronto, and I live in a small town, and people kind of sometimes come up and say hi and enjoy the show. So I was chatting. And as we're leaving, my middle son said to me, "You know what, Dad?" He goes, "You can talk to anyone about anything and it not be awkward." And it really meant a lot to me.
That's a huge compliment from a 12-year-old.
Right. And then my 15-year-old, we were at a Sabres game and I was talking to some people because I sometimes do. And he said something similar like, wow, it's amazing how easily you can chat to people.
And that's worth more compliments than anyone else because they're not going to come out with that unless it's true.
Put it this way, I can remember them because you're not flooded with them.
Yeah. I don't have any. I'm racking my brains. I don't know. I do think when we did this on the podcast, remember what's one thing you like best about your parent?
Right.
Remember we did that sort of behind the scenes thing, and my kids said I was a good listener. That has stuck with me because that's all I've ever wanted to be for my kids is a good listener. So that's something.
Yeah, I can see you that. I don't see you as a fly off the handle kind of parent.
No. I always want to know because I have an interest in psychology. I studied it. I like knowing why people do things. So my first reaction to even when they're being bad is like, why did you do that?
Yeah.
And so that meant a lot to me that my 10-year-old notices that I like to listen.
Right.
So that's something.
So we have a good listener, a good talker, and a good dad.
Best dad ever.
Aww.
So the question is, how deep is your bag?
It's a big old sack, two-hander, if you will.
Oh, wow.
Lots of mail.
Is it worked in now? Is it worked in yet? We've been now doing this podcast for a while.
Yeah.
Still new.
Okay.
Has that new bag smell.
Yeah, it's got the new bag smell. Nice. And you got to reach in to the bag.
Yeah.
Now I got to today.
Yeah.
So we're going to reach in. I got a question.
Okay.
Okay. And it's about schools. Okay. And it's from Jen. So Jen, thank you so much. And it's a long question. I'm going to cut to the chase here. Basically, Jen's point is, and I think Jen, we're probably around the same age of the vibe I get. Generation X.
Gen X, is that her name? Get it?
Oh, wow. That's a good one.
Yeah, thanks.
But she spells it with a J.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
let's go.
Basically, Jen is saying, like, when we went to school, you really had a lot of time to kind of figure out who you were and what you were doing, right? Like right into high school, right? Like at high school, you start kind of maybe taking some courses that maybe lean towards something. But Jen's point now is she feels like now kids need to learn a lot of what they want and potentially what they're going to be in their careers when they're like in grade 7 and grade 8. They want to make sure they choose the right high school because there's different types of schools that you can go to now where we all just kind of went to the, you took, everything was kind of like general, right?
Yes.
You learn history and you learn math and you learn science. And now things are kind of hyper focused. And she's just wondering if we think that maybe we had it right and they have it wrong now with kids having to make this big decisions at a young age.
It's a great question, but I am on the other side. I think we had too much choice. I dicked around a lot and wasted a lot of time on the wrong jobs because there was almost too much. I knew that I wanted to be in something like this when I was really young.
Yeah.
I always did speeches. I liked being a public speaker and having like an audience. And yet the further I got in school, the further away from that I got because those were mostly college programs. And I was a bit of a nerd. I had straight A's and they were like, you got to go to university. I'm like, but I don't want to do any of the careers that the university programs I'm good at. Like I was very good at accounting. I don't know why, but I didn't like it.
Right.
Or math. I ended up wasting so much time and I didn't get into radio till I was well into my 30s.
Oh, were you that late?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was really, it was just a fluke that I ended up in radio. And I wished that I'd actually focused more. So personally, I think the more focus when they're younger, because then kids seem to know more when they're younger, I think.
So you wish that your high school had some sort of radio program?
Yeah, or even
courses?
just, I think the guidance counseling that I got was almost too, you can do anything. And then I ended up with a general psych degree and what's that going to do?
Do you not feel that like out of high school, those next few years are kind of meant to, and this could be too fairy tale for me, is to do all the things that you need to do to find out what you don't want, right? So instead of being like super hyper focused of something that you think that you want in grade 9 and working all towards, all 5 years or however long it takes you to get there. And you're like, well, this isn't for me. Therefore, kind of taking more of a real sort of wide view at work moving forward. And I'm just saying, I don't know. I don't know what's right or wrong. For somebody who doesn't have kids, who even I think remotely have to think about that anytime soon, the one thing that I would like to see done, and I don't know if it's still there, you guys can tell me if it is, I would like that wall between university and college and trade school to come down.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would, because growing up, if you went to a trade school, for some reason it was looked down upon that you weren't smart enough to go to university.
Yeah.
And I want that to be gone. And I don't know if it still exists, and I hope it doesn't. I don't know.
I think it's coming down for
Yeah.
sure. It's better now than it was.
Well, because those guys and ladies are making serious bank.
Exactly. We when we talk about it on our show, we have a
Yep.
radio show in Toronto every morning, Q107. We get calls and emails from crane operators and elevator technicians, and they're making good money.
Even during the pandemic, when everything was closed down, these people still seem to have gigs, right? Because everybody spent their money on new backyards and driveways and whatnot. So it's pandemic proof, and people are running businesses that
Yep.
it's amazing. And if that was not so, like I said, looked down upon, maybe my direction would have changed.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you on that one. I also think, and I could be wrong, but I also think our parents, my parents kind of knew I struggled in school. Like it's an ongoing joke in my life that my dad at like 13, just like he knew I wasn't a student. And he jokingly said it, but it was sincere in that he said, you have to rely on your personality in life. I think he saw something in me and he knew it wasn't school. And so he knew what he was getting with me. But I wonder, like I have a lot of friends that went to school for things that they weren't good at. Like we have a dear friend named Larry that went to the University of Windsor for like business. Like he's like the funniest, like smart guy.
Yeah.
I always thought he should have gotten into broadcasting, sports broadcasting in particular.
Probably way better than you.
And then he quit. He got kicked out or whatever reason in year one. And then he ended up taking like a geography course. Now he's a very successful real estate agent, like a commercial real estate agent. So, but it's his personality is why he's what he is.
I know.
But I think that so many, I think our age now with our kids aren't going to be that classic, you got to go to university. You got to go to university.
Definitely.
I think we are more of like, let's support you in something that you're good at or that you love.
And
Yes.
we also have a friend, because you can only go by what you have. We have a friend, his name is Chris, who knew what he wanted to do from when the first day I met him, right? He was extremely smart in the financial world, and he everything from the youngest that I had ever met him pushed him towards that as well.
Yeah.
And he was super hyper laser focused and never wavered from that as well. And everyone's doing okay, right? Two different sort of journeys, both extremely successful in what they've done.
Yeah.
And I think a great example of like both can work.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's just what's ideal. In her perspective, I wonder also where she lives, because where Jen lives, because in where I live, there aren't special schools. But maybe if you're in a city,
Yeah.
like I know my cousin, her little guy, he had to decide between arts high school or engineering high school. Like there was way more choice. So I can see where she's coming from. If you have those options, we don't where I live.
Yeah, so
General.
we went to school. Johnny and I went to school just outside of Toronto. There was an art school that so the kids in grade 8 when you graduated to high school, I can say like maybe a fourth or like I don't know, like a quarter of them went to this art school, and we all went to just a regular school.
Yeah,
'Cause they were all like really good artists, or they were into theater and stuff like that. I was like you though. I knew I found a homework article or something from homework in grade 8 where I wrote down the 3 things you want to be.
Yeah.
And I wrote soccer player, firefighter, radio DJ.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
But it took me a while too. Like I didn't get into the industry until I was in my mid-20s.
Yeah.
But because the same thing, like there wasn't like nobody pushed you towards anything. That they were just like at that time in the 90s, it was just like, well, just take math and take science. Like I remember my guidance counselor said, well, why don't you think about doing the announcements? Like that was it. Like they just kind of dismissed you.
I think they were all about opening doors, but not enough about what doors do you want to open.
Yeah.
Right? It was just having all these options, and then we ended up, a lot of us, with degrees that didn't mean anything.
But sometimes the best advice comes from people who have lived it, right? Not necessarily guidance counselors, but I didn't mean to say counselors, guidance counselors.
Freudian slip.
Oops. And my dad gave me some great advice that within our life, once we hit like 15, every 5 years, our goals and our perspective of life changes, right? 15 to 20, 20 to 25, 25 to 30, so on. So just because, 15 to 20, you have your eyes set on professional soccer player Parker, it changes as you go. So just because it doesn't mean it's negative, right? Just because your focus changes doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means that whatever was happening wasn't right.
That's true.
And eventually, if you're a good person and you want to do well, it will find you.
Yeah.
You will find it and it will find you.
Could I ask one last question? Would you want your kids to get into radio? Because that's what we do at our job.
I'm going to say no.
Mm-hmm. Johnny?
Just the future is so unknown at this point.
Sure.
Radio, no. Podcasting,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Vlogging and that sort of internet sort of thing. I think obviously yes. Radio as it stands now, probably not. But I will also not tell them if they're super passionate about it. I will let them do it.
Yeah, for sure.
What are you can't say that. What about you?
I think I'm the same as you. Like
Yeah.
if they really wanted it, because
Yeah.
like, listen, there's nothing. Life is long.
But I also think, sorry, didn't interrupt. I will be extremely honest about my experiences and where I think it's going to happen.
Yes.
But you need to learn for that yourself.
Yeah. I just want them, like everyone does, right? Like getting up every day and going to something you hate is an awful feeling. So hopefully, our kids, your kids, everyone finds their passion. Are we reaching into the mail sack a third time?
Ooh, tripling down on the bag.
I feel that it is now a trend.
I do too. Let's see who I pull out.
Okay.
Adam.
Wait.
Adam, just want to reach out and say how much I enjoy listening to you guys on the podcast as well as Q Morning. So we do a morning show on Q107 in Toronto. You can listen through the Radio Player Canada app. Longtime listener of your show. Your podcast is funny, incredibly relatable. Thank you very much. My wife and I recently moved from Toronto to Guelph, which is a suburb of Toronto.
I love Guelph.
Yeah,
what a city.
If you're not familiar with Guelph, it's about an hour or so kind of west of Toronto. We're raising our two boys. What's up? Connor, 1.5, and Mason, 4. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all things sleep related. When it comes to babies and toddlers, we had a particularly rough go with poor sleepers, especially Mason, who wasn't sleeping through the night at almost 2. So his wife and him are exhausted, understandably so, and just wanted to get our take on sleeping.
Family bed. It is so unpopular of an opinion, and it saved my life. Both my boys, very bad sleepers, brought them into our bed. I don't care. I know there's a lot of opinions on it, but it's part of co-parenting and attachment parenting, and there's definitely, it's controversial, but it did it for us, and to the point where our little one, he only fairly recently got comfortable in his own bed, and he's just turned 10.
I'm going to give you some information for free that we paid for. I think we're the only people in this room, myself and my wife, who actually got a sleep trainer. We paid for a sleep trainer. So here's what they told us with a toddler: 100% sleep sack. Okay, it's almost like a sleeping bag for babies, sleep sack, and I was so offended by how much money we spent to learn about a sleep sack, ordered one from Amazon, and changed the way that Jack slept that night.
Really?
I was furious to the point where I wanted to ask for at least 50% back. I'm like, oh, really? All this money for you to say sleep sack? All this money for
That's
sleep
all
sack?
they did?
Sleep sack and very regimented, like, what is it? Like 12, 10, 9? Like sleep for 12, then you're up for 4, and then there was some sort of like mathematical, like, they sleep for 12, then they're up for 4, and then that's their second nap or whatever. I forget that part.
Yeah.
Very regimented on that and white noise.
Oh, white noise.
So when Olivia was born, I was Mr. Music Dad, and I'm going to make her a mixed thing and playlist, and she's going to listen to it. And it's like Lion Eyes by the Eagles and some like old school slow Coldplay stuff. And the sleep trainer said that's the worst thing you could do. Really? Because much like us, where we, like In the Air Tonight, we all anticipate the da-da-da-da. We all anticipate it. And babies are the same with their brains, where they're once they hear like songs and music, they're anticipating what is going to happen next, and doesn't allow them to just relax and fall asleep. So I'm like, I was doing that for like 3 months. I'm like, she's not sleeping. She's not sleeping. So take that out of it. Even though I thought I was doing good, I was doing a lot of harm. And white noise, sleep sack, regimented naps. Once you see your toddler yawn, go.
Shut it down.
Because that is the most optimal time to get them down for their nap. Where it's like, okay, they yawned, I'll wait a couple more. No, as soon as they yawn, done.
Yeah, Adam, I had the same as you. I have 3 boys, and all 3 of them are terrible sleepers. To the point, Shauna, we did the same thing. Whatever, you beat me down, hop in the bed.
Yeah.
But my 9-year-old like crawls into our bed.
Yeah.
At least twice a week, and lately it's been even more.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. We've done his room every way he's wanted it. It's a little boy's dream, and he still just wants to be with us for whatever reason. It's really, really hard, and it's hard when you're tired to parent, right? I mean, it's one thing when you have one, because a lot of times, especially the mother, right? Like you can nap when the baby naps if
Yes,
it's possible.
yes, yes.
When you have two, they're never on the same schedule.
No.
So I feel you having a 1.5 and a 4-year-old, it's really, really difficult. We did the white noise as well. I think by the time we had our third, we finally had like an iPad. And then we put like on YouTube and put in like 10 hours of white noise.
Yeah.
And that seemed to help a little bit for us.
I never did the white noise
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even like I think it's probably a little different than the music. What you were saying with music, because it startles you sometimes, where white noise is just consistent.
Yeah.
and I
It's
think
not,
there's
it's not blaring. It's like
Yeah.
on a 2 in the background.
and
Yeah.
I think we even did like the noises that they mimic what it sounds like when they were in the belly,
Okay.
like a boom, boom, like that kind of
Yeah,
low
yeah.
pitch or whatever. But
like
we
indigestion.
yeah, we tried everything. Dad singing and just in the background.
So hard.
It's hard. Like they do get through it. Like even though he does crawl into bed with us, it sucks. In one sense, they do eventually sleep.
Yep.
Listen,
This age is tough.
especially for moms, if you're breastfeeding, that first little while, like you're up and up and up and feeding, and there's nothing I can do as a male to like help you with that. I just can't. Now I feel that as my kids have gotten older, they still come. Like Olivia comes in every night,
Yeah.
but at least when I put her back to bed, she sleeps. It's just she's coming to get me for comfort. I don't know what it is. You forget how tired and absolutely knackered you are during the first couple of years of sleep.
Oh, man.
You forget about
You're
it.
a zombie. You're just kind of getting through
Yes.
it. Like to the point you look back and you're almost like, how did we do
Oh,
that?
Exactly.
100%.
You
Like,
know.
how did you possibly drive
Yeah.
to work after the night you just had?
Yeah.
How did you possibly
Yeah.
not? And you know what? I say, how can you possibly not have just broken down? There's multiple times that I cried.
Yeah.
Multiple times, because it's just, you just want them to sleep, and you need sleep yourself. And how many studies have come out that you need 8, 10,
Yeah,
10
yeah,
hours
yeah.
to like be the optimal best you can be? I'm getting like 3.5 here,
Yeah,
guys.
I know.
My wife's getting 3.5, and
Yeah, it's hard.
it's
And no
hard.
one wants to hear this part, but to Adam is that it'll go so quick in a way that when
Yes.
you look back, you realize it's such a small portion of your life
Right.
that it's okay in the end. And you
Sure.
realize you could worry, or just sort of try to enjoy the fact that you're snuggling up with a kid that in a few years, because I have a 16-year-old, it's gone. And
Right.
once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
And it goes pretty quick. And I mean, it's not great advice, but I just found that I tried not to worry about it as much.
And as soon as they get to the point where they're sleeping well in their cribs, and it's time to transition them into a bed where now they can get out at their leisure and come and get you. At least they were enclosed, right? And just you just sleep and everything's fine. Over this weekend, we transferred Jack out of his crib into a big boy bed.
Yeah.
Got it delivered. It was all good. And that's sort of like old school feeling of dread.
Yeah.
Now having 2 on the loose.
Oh,
right, to come in
yeah.
at any
Yeah, they can
time
get out now.
was very adamant. The kid nailed it.
That's good.
The kid nailed it. Called out once because we could put those railings on
Yeah,
the bed
yeah,
so they fall out. Jack had to go to potty in the middle of the night. He couldn't get out on his own, right?
Yeah.
You got to slide out the bottom.
Yeah.
He did it.
He did it.
He did it. So it gets better.
It definitely does.
It gets better, but it's hard to see the light.
Yeah.
When you're in it.
And then when
right?
they grow up, now you don't sleep because they're out driving.
Right. Yeah, great point.
So if you have any more suggestions, we'll maybe next month or the month after, we'll do another mailbag show. So make sure you send in all of your questions or suggestions for the show. Just badparents@curiouscast.ca. Thank you to everybody who takes the time to listen and comment and like and subscribe. It means the world to us. So thank you ever so much. So my name's Johnny.
I'm Shauna.
There we go.
I'm Ryan.
And this is Bad Parents.